Randolph Scott utterly hated John Wayne. Now we know the reason why. Yourself, two legendary cowboys, both icons of the American Western. To millions of moviegoers, they embodied the same rugged frontier ideal. But behind the cameras lurked Hollywood's most venomous blood feud. For decades, Randolph Scott didn't just dislike John Wayne. He loathed him with a cold, unquenchable fury that shocked even hardened studio veterans. While they maintained public civility, recently unearthed private correspondence reveals Scott once vowed to put Wayne in the ground if their paths crossed again. The explosive truth behind this hatred remained buried in studio vaults until now. What Wayne did to Scott didn't just end a friendship. It nearly destroyed a career, altered the course of Western film history, and culminated in a violent confrontation, so shocking that witnesses were paid to sign lifetime silence agreements. The real reason these cowboy legends became mortal enemies exposes Golden Age Hollywood at its most ruthless, and reveals why Scott's hatred burned undiminished until his dying breath. You're soft. You should have let him kill me, because I'm gonna the early camaraderie. Before the hatred, there was friendship, or at least the Hollywood version of it. In the early 1930s, Randolph Scott and John Wayne were rising stars whose careers followed remarkably similar trajectories. Both tall, handsome men gravitating toward Western roles. They occasionally crossed paths on the Paramount lot, where they shared a mutual appreciation for horsemanship and outdoor skills. They genuinely seemed to respect each other at first, recalled a Paramount grip who worked with both men. Wayne admired Scott's authentic Virginia riding style, while Scott appreciated Wayne's natural ease on horseback. They'd sometimes have lunch together at the commissary, talking about hunting trips and ranch life. This collegial relationship extended beyond the studio. In 1932, they briefly shared an apartment in Hollywood Hills during a period when both were between marriages. Industry gatherings from this era show them standing together in photographs, smiling with the easy camaraderie of men who shared similar interests and career ambitions. Scott was the more established star initially, noted a casting director who worked with both actors. He'd been in film since 1928 and had a certain polish that Wayne, still going by his birth name, Marion Morrison, occasionally hadn't yet developed, but there seemed to be no jealousy between them at that point. If anything, Wayne looked up to Scott as someone slightly ahead on the path they both traveled. What few people realized was that beneath this surface friendship lay the seeds of what would become Hollywood's most bitter rivalry, one that would eventually explode into violence and lifelong hatred: the fateful betrayal. The turning point came in 1939 as director. John Ford prepared to film what would become a landmark in Western cinema, Stagecoach. Both actors were being considered for the pivotal role of the Ringo Kid, a part that industry insiders recognized would elevate its performer from Biavi player to legitimate star. For Wayne, languishing in low-budget westerns after the commercial failure of The Big Trail, this represented possible career salvation. For Scott, already established in westerns, it offered the prestige project that might finally move him into A-list consideration. What happened next has remained Hollywood's most closely guarded secret until recently discovered documents from Ford's production files revealed the truth. Wayne, learning that Scott was the preferred choice, allegedly took extraordinary measures to secure the role. Wayne deliberately sabotaged Scott's screen test, revealed the production assistant's notarized account, sealed until 2010. He bribed a stagehand to tamper with Scott's saddle, causing a humiliating fall during his riding. Demonstration for Ford. Then he suggested Scott couldn't handle the physical demands of the role. The sabotage worked. Scott's painful tumble made Ford question his reliability for the physically demanding shoot, and Wayne secured the career-making part. When Scott discovered the truth months later through a drunken confession from the same stagehand, the betrayal cut beyond professional competition into something far darker. Scott confronted Wayne at the Brown Derby, claimed a recently discovered letter from a witness. Wayne just smirked and said, "That's Hollywood, Randy. Only room for one top cowboy around here." In that moment, something changed in Scott's eyes. It wasn't anger. It was hatred in its purest form. The aftermath proved the beginning of drastically diverging career paths. Stagecoach transformed Wayne from a B-movie cowboy into a major star virtually overnight, while Scott continued making formulaic westerns that, while commercially successful, lacked the prestige and artistic recognition Wayne now enjoyed. You could see Scott physically flinch when Stagecoach was mentioned at industry functions. One studio publicist recalled, "He'd been so close to the role that changed everything for Wayne, knowing he lost it through deliberate sabotage rather than fair competition poisoned something in him. You want that gun? Pick it up. I wish you the wartime rivalry intensifies." As America entered World War II, the professional rivalry took an even more personal turn. Wayne, despite his patriotic screen image and tough guy persona, never served in the military, receiving a 3A deferment as a married father of 4. Scott, however, had served with distinction in World War I as an artillery officer in France. This contrast became a particular point of contention as Wayne began portraying military heroes in films like Flying Tigers and The Fighting Seabs, while Scott's actual military experience went unrecognized. According to correspondence from Scott's longtime friend and frequent director, Bud Boder, Scott found Wayne's wartime heroics on screen deeply hypocritical. Randy couldn't stomach seeing Wayne play the hero in uniform. Bodker wrote in an unpublished memoir, he'd mutter, "At least I actually heard shots fired in anger whenever Wayne's war pictures were mentioned." For a Southern gentleman with Scott's military background, Wayne's avoidance of service while profiting from war roles seemed the height of dishonor. The tension escalated when Wayne, aware of Scott's criticism, LLEGEDLY, arranged to have Scott excluded from a high-profile USO tour to military bases, suggesting to organizers that Scott's advanced age, though he was only 4 years older than Wayne, made him unsuitable for the rigorous travel schedule. Scott learned about Wayne's interference from Bob Hope, who thought he should know who had blocked him from the tour. A mutual acquaintance revealed. Scott told friends afterward that Wayne was a coward playing dress-up as a soldier. The breach between them was becoming unbridgeable. "You better marry that girl, Matt." "Yeah, I think I'm. When are you going to stop telling people what to the blacklist weapon?" The professional sabotage and personal animosity might eventually have faded into typical Hollywood rivalry had Wayne not escalated the conflict during the Red Scare, weaponizing the Hollywood blacklist against his rival in a move that nearly ended Scott's career entirely. In 1947, as president of the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals, Wayne wielded considerable power during the House Un-American Activities Committee investigations. While Scott was no communist, he'd attended several industry parties in the early 1940s where blacklisted writers were present. This tenuous connection was all Wayne needed. Wayne submitted Scott's name for Huck scrutiny. A former committee clerk revealed in a 2005 deathbed confession he didn't directly accuse Scott of being a communist, but he made sure investigators took a hard look at him. It was character assassination by proxy. The investigation process itself, though ultimately clearing Scott, created a cloud of suspicion that had immediate professional consequences. Production on Coroner Creek, a Scott Western, at Columbia Pictures, was temporarily halted pending the outcome of the inquiry. 2 other planned projects were canceled outright, with nervous producers unwilling to risk association with even a temporarily flagged actor. The personal toll was even more devastating. According to his longtime housekeeper, Scott's reaction to seeing Wayne testifying before whack on a newsreel was so violent that he punched through a glass cabinet, severing tendons in his hand. The injury required 27 stitches and left a permanent scar, a daily reminder of his hatred for Wayne. Mr. Scott wouldn't allow Wayne's name spoken in the house, the housekeeper recalled in an unpublished 1990 memoir. Once when his films came on television, he threw a crystal tumbler through the screen. The only time I ever heard him curse was about Wayne. What made Wayne's actions particularly unforgivable in Scott's eyes was the cynical exploitation of patriotism. From someone Scott considered a military avoider. In private correspondence with director Henry Hathaway, Scott wrote, "Wayne wraps himself in the flag he was too frightened to defend, then uses that same flag to strangle the careers of his betterers. There is no lower creature in Hollywood. Marshall, fine morning, eh?" They always call it out fine until you wake up and get out of bed. The personal destruction. Wayne's most devastating attack came in 1948 and targeted not just Scott's career, but his personal life. For years, Scott had shared a Hollywood home with fellow actor Cary Grant, a living arrangement that created persistent industry rumors. Though both men maintained these were economical bachelor quarters between friends with no romantic component, the gossip continued. In the hyper-homophobic atmosphere of 1940s Hollywood, E.